Hey everybody, happy Friday. I am so excited to be here because today I get to talk to Irene. I'm sure you have seen her because I actually do forward a lot of the information that she shares, and I just cannot wait into to going to figure everything out. And I'm not this whole life thing. Instagram gets a little bit crazy every time that I try to learn something. It changes. It's alright. So good morning. Or I think you did mention that you had a glass of wine, which is excellent. I have coffee, but it's purely due to the time difference.
Yes, so it's 9 a.m. for you and 12 a.m. for me, so it's morning.
Yes.
Yay!
Cheers. So
Cheers!
good. Happy Friday. We should just leave it at that. And I
Yes.
so excited for this conversation. I know that we went back and forth on things that we could talk about, and then in the midst of trying to decide a topic, we had such awesome conversations that I was like, I feel like being covers everything that we have touched on, and it's been such a joy to share space. But today I wanna pick your brain a little bit, if you would let us, that for everybody to get to know a little bit more of your magic, because you have the most beautiful stories and the most handsome cats. And I'm not like, for me to say that is a lot because I'm normally not a cat person, but you are changing my ways a little bit.
I'm so glad, it's about time for them to earn their own, living. So I'm trying to make that happen through my stories now. So what that means is anybody's watching it, if you want to look at some cats, come to my profile and, watch my stories and you'll see a lot of them
Yes,
every day.
you do, but you get a lot more than that when you go to her page. So I highly recommend you. So let's probably get started with the fact that you were just celebrating the Chinese New Year and you've been educating us a lot on it. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so today is actually the fourth day. Coming on the fifth day. There's some fun thing about the fifth day, but let me begin from the first day. So Chinese New Year, we usually regard the first 15 days in the lunar calendar to be the New Year period. So it's a long celebration period time. So the day before the first day, actually, we usually gather together as a family in a large group, and we will have a big feast celebrating the end of the year. But the tradition of that is actually, long time ago when the tradition began, is about this monster that will come over in the middle of the night. That's why people have to gather together, just so that we can fight off whatever monster that is coming towards the end of the year. But now we
Good.
just, yes, but now we just gather to eat. And the first 3 days is all about going to see your relatives, friends, and then we will offer lucky money to each other and, buy some sweets because, when you have candies and you have sweet taste in your mouth, it usually makes people happy. At least that's what, people in the past thought.
Oh no,
And
it's still apply.
exactly. And the fifth day is interesting because it's the day about the arrival of the god of money. So you can see actually Chinese people love money traditionally. It's all about money, but no, it's also about community, being with your family. But a lot of emphasis is placed on money as well. So on the fifth day, the god of money will come, and it's better for you to just clear all the garbage in your house so that you have space for money, for abundance.
I like it, and my house does need cleaning. So maybe I will just like, this is a great motivation to use today to get ready for the abundance that we're really trying to cut into our life. Not just about, not like you said, not just monetarily, but we have also explored a lot of about the abundance mindset and what it means, and how sometimes we tend to sabotage ourselves based on what we told ourselves, or a story that we have been believing for so long that it feels so real that when people ask you how real it is, you almost get offended, because of course it's real because it's so yours. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so money mindset is also something that I've been navigating in the past year. And I really agree with what you say because a lot of our past lessons on money that we have internalized unconsciously, they're actually stopping us from playing back and showing up. We all have so many talents and so much to offer, but we just feel like, yeah, maybe we're not good enough. Even when we know that we are good enough, we are afraid of what may come when we have the money, when we have the success, when we expand our consciousness, expand our presence in the online world or in our physical world. We're afraid that we may not be good enough to sustain what we've created. So there are like many different facets on it. I think one very important thing that I've learned in the last year, I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs knows about this, but it was quite new to me, surprisingly, is that failure is so important um, for achieving success. I don't know if I've shared this story like in our previous conversation. So what it is about is that if you look at a successful person or someone who has a lot of abundance in life, in love, in relationship, in money, they are someone who is willing to try and they are not afraid to take chances. And someone who feels like the safest way to go forward is to not try anything, because if you never try, you never fail. They usually have lesser chance to achieve what they want to achieve. So the one who has achieved the most or achieved what they want in life, they have failed many times before. But the more they fail, the closer they are to their goal. So this is something that I've learned in last year that blew my mind. It sounds really simple, but really growing up, fail is never an option.
I agree. I feel like everybody has such a terrible definition of failure. Like, because the dictionary even says it. Like, it's when you did not do something right. But it is a lot more than that. It is such an opportunity to learn. It is such an opportunity to learn what to not do anymore, what to switch, change against, away from, or maybe it just doesn't, maybe it's going right but it doesn't align with yourself, so it's not making you feel right. It's like, it's such an opportunity that I feel like it's a lot better, it's easier to not try, because then,
Yeah.
like you said, you stay safe, you know your little bubble, and it's safe and it's like secure. But it's almost the same. There's like really no growth. No, there's really no growth, and there's a lot of questions in between, because you might be in your really safe bubble, but you're still always wondering, what if? Well, they do it, but I can't. But what if? Like, and then the moment that you take those 5 seconds of courage, I don't know. That's what I use for my own self. That I 1, 3, 5 and go. You discover that what if is a lot slower, and that fear loses the power that it has had over you for such a long time. And I feel like discovering that is so empowering, because you're just like, oh my gosh, yes, I might. I recently had the experience of going to Puerto Rico, and I went swimming in the ocean, which for me is like it's a big deal, because I'm so afraid of the ocean. Like, I'm so afraid of drowning to a level that is hard to explain, and it sounds almost ridiculous. But every time that I think of packing floaties, that's how serious it is.
Yeah.
So having to let go and jump into the ocean was a big what if. Like, what if I can just enjoy it, and like, what if? And but for a long time I did not permit myself, because it's like, what if I die? What if I like drown? What if? And all the what ifs were like such an that like finding killing moment of my dream, right? And what if I don't? And what if I was actually floating? And so it's just taking those 5 seconds of bravery of checking, like, what is it really actually going to happen, versus allowing the question of the what ifs to continue to take over your life, and keeping you safe in a bubble that is not allowing you to discover. It's not just growth, but it's like so many discoveries of yourself and of your surroundings and of other people. Because
Yeah.
sometimes we are so curious about somebody. For a long time, I followed you, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing. But I found it intimidating to talk to you, because I was like, she just knows so much.
Really, that is so interesting to know. I never knew that.
Of
Yeah,
course she did.
that.
This is the first time I confess.
Oh, and hi, Clarita. Oh, I think she's gone. but yeah, she was here. I was gonna, yes, I was gonna say our mental stories lie to us all the time. Um, I mean, our mind is a beautiful organ. Our brain is amazing. It can do so much, but it's also very good at lying to us. So I think I read a book the other day that says that our mind actually can take in 11 or 111,000 information, but we only pick like 1% of it and to interpret what is happening. Like at each moment, we can absorb so much different information, but we only focus on very little detail, and we use that to determine the reality. So this goes to say how unreliable our brain is. You know, when we look at someone, I look at just such a beautiful face, I'm like, oh gosh, should I reach out to her and and all that mental stories. Oh, maybe she will think I'm like this, or maybe she doesn't like blah blah blah, or maybe she will find me blah blah blah. All these things. Or like you said, how you get over these false stories and begin to enjoy your experience in the ocean. That's just an amazing way to overcome and see beyond these mental stories.
Yeah. And I think it's just, I don't know. There has to be different ways to go about it. Maybe you can share a few ways to overcome mental stories. For me, honestly, it's telling myself I'm telling myself this story, and it's not true for everybody. So it might not be true to myself anymore. So now it's just staying curious. I have to stay curious with myself and my stories. And I was like, is it true? How true is it? Do I test it like 100% of the time? Like I start like negotiating with myself, doing the math. Like, does it make sense? And then I give myself those 5 seconds of bravery to be like, I'm gonna question it. I'm just, why not?
Yes, I think it's amazing. Exactly what I would say to do with our mental stories, and really sit down to look at it. Is it true? But before we are able to even go into this step, is to realize that these are mental stories. You know how we just automatically take a lot of actions based on these stories without realizing that they are there. So we are able to talk about these mental stories now because we have the awareness, but sometimes we forget. And a lot of the times we were not taught to actually come and reflect on these stories. So we just almost like on an autopilot. We just go about life and do however we are used to do without stop and say, hey, why am I doing this? Or why am I feeling this? What is underneath these feelings or this action? Let me take a look on my inside and see, what is controlling my action right now. Or maybe when I'm going through some emotions, difficult ones or easy ones, let's look beyond that and see what messages are these emotions telling me. So once we're able to do that, and then we can do the second step, which is questioning it. Hey, okay, so now I have identified, the source of these actions or these emotions, this fear. Okay, the stories are here, the source is here. Is it true? Is it actually true? Because when we look at that, we may realize, oh my God, that's just ridiculous. That reminds me of a conversation that I have with my friend recently. So she has a daughter, and she had some fertility problem earlier. And so when she was able to have this daughter, Solar just made an appearance. Hey. Oh,
There he is.
you just entered your internet world for the first time. Okay, sorry. So this friend, when she has this daughter, it's like the most precious thing to her. And then her daughter is around 8 years old now. And she has been so harsh and so tough on her in every single aspect that scared me. Like the time I saw her yell at her, I was like, hey, it seems like you are adopting a pretty intense approach with your daughter. Why is that? And she's told me that it's because she's an only child. And she feels like that because she's an only child, she will have a very tough life in front of her. And that's why she needs to be really tough with her so that she can become a stronger person. And so you can see like behind her actions that several mental stories. And I'm not saying all of them are false, because some of them you can't just, judge it as true or false. But you can see that there are many, many different pillars supporting her action. So I invited her to look deeper. What makes her think that, you know, being a single child means that you're going to have a very tough life ahead of you? And she looked within and she said, well, because this is what my mother told me all the time. And I was like, okay, great. So because of this belief, this is determining your entire parenting approach. Now, tell me, do you really think this is true? Because, for example, for the friends that, you know, the common friends that we have, a lot of them are single child and they achieve amazing things in this world. So it began a new thinking process for her, and she's been reflecting on it. So that's just one example on how we can go back and look at, you know, the mental stories that has been supporting our actions.
Oh my gosh, I have a funny story about the single child stories
Ooh.
too. And it's so funny because I actually have a lot of friends that are single childs that are sick, and I had no idea. And I thought that I was so good at spotting them because in my mind, a single child is like super spoiled and he has everything easy. And like, oh, I told myself all these stories. So I'm in this band full of single childs, not having the slightest clue that they are. And I make a comment of like, oh, it must, it's the single child syndrome. I don't know what I don't know how it came in conversation. And then there was an awkward silence. And that's how I found out that four of my like close friends, they're like, oh, I'm a single child. And it kept coming back. I felt so like ignorant because I know them. I've seen them succeed at so many different things. I have seen them like deal with different situations, knowing how to share all these assumptions that I had in my mind, like single child, they don't know how to share, they want to get everything even, the parents over spoil them. All the stories came back to me in like full circle because I had already they showed me that it was far from a fact, right?
Yeah.
It was backward and such a beautiful lesson that I was like, okay, clearly I'm not a single child, so clearly maybe I should just not assume that I know what one looks like or acts like because I'm not one. I'm far from. And we just left it at that. We definitely laugh about it still because it was so revealing.
Yes, yes. That sounds like a huge, you know, bubble bursting moment to burst the assumptions about single child, especially
Yeah.
those are your closest friends and you know them so well.
Oh my gosh, she was like, you are what? No, you're not. And I really I they were not. And then so I had nothing. Everything that I had said a child was, they had shown me not one, not two, four of them in one vehicle that I was completely
Wow.
wrong. Needless to say, it was a lesson, but it also reminds me of the four agreements that I like really try to live by, and it's harder because it's easier said than done, but it definitely is a work in progress. But one of them is do not assume. Like, don't assume that you know because most of the time you don't.
Yeah,
Or you're
yeah.
wrong, and then maybe you're acting on this mental story of this assumption of this novella that you already created in your mind, and little do you know that you're like so far from the reality until you're in conversation and you just put your foot in your mouth.
Yes, yes, yes. And because I think you mentioned that one of your biggest strength is curiosity. So with curiosity, you can just, you know, with more awareness and let go of all these assumptions. And sometimes when I think of, you know, how much assumptions that we make in our lives that are not true, it amazes me how we can, you know, get through life, how human beings can achieve so much success despite all this. But but at the end of the day, when we are able to come back into the truth and learn, hey, you know, I've been acting out of these mental stories that are not true, and you begin to take aligned actions based on beliefs that you truly aligned with, or based on the truth that you later realize, it just feels so empowering. It feels so different, and the conflict, internal conflicts that have been part of you all along, that you feel like you get used to it, and when they begin to just, you know, disappear, you will feel so much lighter. So I still feel like this is um, such a necessary thing for us to do, to just reflect and look beyond the surface and just dive deep and see what beliefs that we have been harboring inside of us, and to really check on them and to say, hey, are they really true? Do I really think of it? Do I really want to believe them? Because sometimes it's not about true or false, or maybe just whether we want to believe them. Like you said, do you want to, believe that jumping into the ocean would kill you, or maybe you have the best fun in your life?
Things. I mean, I always recommend you start small, but honestly, like jumping on the ocean was a big deal for me, like a big one, because yes, in my like deep inside, I really thought, hey, I could easily die here, and I can't afford to die right now. Like I have kids, I have all these things. So I was like, I don't know, but yes, it's the tiniest little steps of staying curious that have really served me well. It has not been a strength of mine for a long time, but because I have noticed that assuming has never served me ever, because I have not maybe less than 1% of the time I assume right. I decided to, it's just a lot helpful, a lot easier to just stay curious and ask the question. Like, clarity is kind. Give it to me straight. Or I'm not sure, but I'm thinking, I'm feeling, or if I had to assume, like, honestly, that is kind of like how I go about conversations. Because yes, I still tell myself stories. Yes, of course I still assume. But now at least I recognize it to the point that I was like, oh, I'm totally assuming. So I say it. Like, I'm assuming this, but how am I on the right track? Am I completely wrong? You know how there's a game? I don't know if you had it, but in Mexico, there's this game of like closer, closer, like depending on the clues,
Yeah.
you're
Hotter,
getting
hotter, and then
warmer,
colder, colder.
warmer, you're almost there, or you're like, no, no, like, no.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like the way that you are able to catch yourself and to, because throughout our life, the decades of life that we have gone through so far, we were never really asked to stop and, hey, take a look on the inside. What is happening on the inside? Or, hey, is it true? To be able to just switch your perception, almost like turning your iPhone lens from the outside back to the selfie mode, is it's very precious. As in, one example of that is, when you are doing sitting meditation, and it's very normal. Everybody does it. Just for warning, when our thoughts go somewhere else, when we start planning lunch, start planning our weekend activities, and suddenly realize, hey, I'm meditating. Let me come back to the meditation. That switch, one of the greatest kirtan teacher, Krishna Das, he said that being able to make that switch, is actually a blessing in disguise. It's a bliss. Being able to do that is just a blessing. Just like you said, instead of going through life as usual, you suddenly now you are able to bring in awareness and ask yourself, okay, I see my thoughts coming in. Are they true? Oh my God, this is totally assumption. So being able to even do that, that is, that's just a beautiful gift.
Thank you. Yes, I think it has served me well. So I honestly, if anybody's watching and you're just like, you totally lost me, we're just literally inviting you to stay curious with your own thoughts and to just look at them and for what they are. They're thoughts until you either put the value on them, how real they can be and how congruent are with who you want to be. So it's just like the curiosity that I think I really want to invite people to stay in a place in which you can not assume that you know everything or that you have been there, done that, or that it's safer to not try because you might fail. Because we touched on that a little bit of how growth and success comes with a lot of like falls and getting ups. So
Yeah.
what else should we talk about? Anything that
So
is present?
I just wanted to add a little bit just now when you said that. Sorry. So when you were saying I just lost. I just had it and I just lost it. So you were talking about. All right. Let's move it forward. I think it will come back to me. It's something about what you said. Oh, mental stories, making the switch. All right, let's move forward. It will come back.
But yes, we all tell ourselves like mental stories, and I think they're like nice to have. They're really nice to have because then it kind of gives you the company that you feel that you want to feel in going into something like not. Sometimes they give you like a safety net of like, well, I'm doing this because it might be a whole mental story of like, I'm doing this because it's gonna go well. It's a mental story, but then you put the value on it, and then you're just like, oh, yes, it's so real that I'm going to make it happen. And it can be really motivating. So mental stories are not always bad. You can tell yourself a really cool mental story that is going to serve you well in which is super motivating. And because it's so true to you and congruent and it feels so good, you want to make it real. And it is real to you. I mean, I think I've seen that and it works out for a lot of people very well. And yeah, who doesn't know like a cool mental story that is like the fire that I needed. Like I tell myself, I only need 5 seconds of bravery to take the next step, to recognize if I'm gonna if I can do this something or not. Like it's just 5 seconds away
Yes.
for 5 seconds away from making a decision of like, can I run or can I not? Can I do this yoga pose or can I not? Like tiny little things. But if I'm 5 seconds, I can hang for 5 seconds. I can try it for 5 seconds.
I
So
love
that's
that.
it's totally a mental story. I don't know how true it is, but it is very true to me because it has worked for me time and time again. Is it a fact?
Yes.
I don't even care. It works for me.
Well, it sounds like you have turned it into a fact. It's so interesting that you say that because mental stories, like you said, can actually be positive visualizations or positive affirmations. So it's not like we need to get rid of the mental stories, which, by the way, is not possible. It's more like we take control and say, okay, instead of that mental stories, I would like to now believe in that mental stories instead, and not unconsciously letting those habitual, oh, I remember what I wanted to say, not letting those habitual internalized thoughts that control our lives. Because those habitual internalized thinking, thoughts, like in my example, my friend's example, the thought that a single child is going to and not achieve a good life, that is a thought that was instilled into her by her mother. Um, and it's not helpful in her parenting style, right? So she never really take a, so this is for her is a habitual energy. She just listen and she, go ahead with it without coming back and hey, and ask herself, hey, is this really helpful for me? Is it something that I really want to believe in? If it is, fine, go ahead. If it's not, and it's creating results that don't feel good to you because she loves her daughter so much, but by her being so harsh on her daughter, she's hurt on the inside as well herself, but she doesn't want to show it. She just want to train her daughter in a military style, but she's only 8. So yeah, like you said, mental stories are not necessarily bad. We just need to be mindful and select the ones that is helpful to us. And like my favorite movie, Eat, Pray, Love says, and also the book, every day you select your thoughts like you would select your outfit of the day.
Yeah, that is so. Say it again. Every day.
Every day select, like choose your thought like you would choose your outfit, because you know how, oh, today I want to wear this, let me wear this. So we can do the same thing with our thoughts. Oh, today I would like to believe in blah blah blah, and then we choose that instead of just unconsciously going through life without choosing our thoughts. Like you say, you choose that, oh, in 5 seconds I'm gonna make a decision, or in 5 seconds I'm gonna go run, and then it works for you, and that's just amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like what you just said about choosing your thoughts is just being intentional, just being aware of what thoughts you're having, because the moment that you actually it goes from, like you said, being a habit of like, oh, this is how I do every day, and this is what I do every morning. Like, it's just slowing down and say, today I want to accomplish this one thing, or today I want to feel grateful for, or today it's just making that decision of like, today I'm paying attention to, and yes, I think that's on its own so helpful and such a beautiful first step of awareness that is inviting you to continue to stay curious.
Yeah, yeah. And that reminds me that aside from choosing our thoughts, we can choose our identity too. Because sometimes we hold beliefs about ourselves that we're not aware of. For example, maybe we believe that we have to perform in a certain way, or we have to look in a certain way before we can achieve something, or we must show up in a specific way. It's almost like a rule. But if we look within, we can actually show up however we want, and that's solo making an appearance. So we can actually show up. We can actually come back and choose how we want to show up, um, instead of unconsciously going through life wearing these hats of identities that may not no longer apply to us anymore.
Yeah, I think it recently there was a beautiful quote. I don't honestly I can't remember who said it, and I'm probably gonna murder the quote, but it talks about loving yourself for how you are today, because it's probably going to be the last time that you're going to be the exact same way that you are today, because we evolve for better or for worse. We all move on to the future and we change, and with those changes, instead of hoping to be and waiting for I'm going to love myself when, like, it's kind of like every time that people go on a diet, I'm going to look so great when I lose 5 pounds. It's like, right, if you're already telling yourself that you cannot look good today because you have these pounds extra, which is such a terrible way to go about life. But this quote reminds you of, it's like, just love yourself as you are today, because it's probably going to be the last time that you are, as of, with the thoughts, with the mindset, with the way that you are, your body is, your mind, your thoughts, and the way that you show up. Just love yourself the way that you are today, and then as you change, you're gonna get to know yourself all over again.
Yes, yes. Oh, this is so beautiful. I love that.
Really wish I
Because
had an actual quote, but he talks about that.
no, I think the way you explain it was already very beautiful. Because us humans are such complicated beings. There's almost no way that we will stay the same, and we literally do not stay the same biologically. Our cells change and renew themselves all the time. Like every second we are changing and evolving. And I'm so sorry if Solar's
Yeah.
blocking me. Can you still hear me properly?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So yes, we are evolving and changing all the time. um I think the key is just to permit ourselves to show up as we are every single day. Accept that and celebrate that.
Yeah. And if you're not at a point in which you can sell, because it's hard, because you don't feel like you're where you want to be, because we're so used to being our worst critics, at least allow it. Allow yourself to be, accept yourself the way that you are, and then slowly you're gonna start realizing that how you are today is like amazing. You don't really need to change a lot to, like, to show up. You don't really have to hide between like a bunch of filters. I don't know. Like, you just, it's the tiniest little acknowledgement of who you are, how you want to show up, how you want to feel, and allowing it. And then, yes, I'm a huge fan for celebrating everything. Huge fan.
Yes, yes. And that reminds me of an experience that I had with a stay at home mindfulness retreat. So I think I talked about it in an earlier video where for 7 days I only attend like meditation sessions. Aside from that, I cannot go on social media, go on internet at all. I could not read. I could not talk to anyone. So it's the Vipassana style retreat. Because of COVID, it's conducted at home. And one very interesting benefit of that was that I begin to realize, hey, my house, my decor is actually quite nice, because I spend my life thinking, okay, when I have more money, I'm going to redecorate the entire house. I'm going to do this or that. And I look at architecture magazines, interior design magazines, and all these Pinterest photos. But during the 7 days, I begin to see the beauty of my home right now as is. There are already beautiful elements in it. So being able to come back and truly look at yourself in a fresh pair of eyes every day may help you to find beauty that you don't, usually see. Because we're so used to it, we forget to appreciate ourselves, or maybe our partners too.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is so true. How we, because it's a habit, right? You normally are just rushing through your house and moving to the next thing, and you don't even take the second to be like, oh, I remember when I bought that. I really loved it, you know, or the artist was so nice. Yeah, that's such a beautiful reminder. That's so
Yeah.
cool. I that would be really hard for me to do, especially in this my little two kids. Like that would be really hard to do. But anyways, any last minute thoughts that we should touch on before we head out, because I want to be mindful of the time zone difference.
Yes, yes, thank you for that. And you actually touch on the final message that I want to share, which is mindfulness. You know, everything that we talk about, it will actually be helpful for us just to be mindful not every single moment, but from time to time. Like right now, I have installed this program called Mindfulness Bell on my phone and on my computer. So every hour, it will, it will ring a bell, a really loud one. But it reminds me to, okay, whatever I'm doing, stop. I mean, unless I'm in a session with clients, I'll come back and take a deep breath, do a quick body scan, feel my body, feel my emotions, just make an acknowledgement, and then go back to my work. So that way, it's almost training my mindfulness muscle to come back and check in, hey, what is exactly going on? It doesn't take long. It takes like 30 seconds every hour. But I think it find it really helpful to stop myself and review my mental stories at the moment.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. Plus, productivity wise speaking, disconnecting from whatever you're doing every hour is actually a lot healthier for your brain, and you can show up in a better way if you release if you actually blink and take a second to just take it back. So yes,
Yes.
that's an amazing. I'm gonna try it, but every hour. I want to start with like every 3 hours, because body scans as it is not something that is not one of my habits yet. I do it in the mornings now and at night, because I want to see how I feel in the morning, and then and it's part of staying curious, right? I just want to know.
Yeah.
In the morning I felt blah blah blah, and now after all this day with everything that came with, I feel, and then you can choose to release, or you can just choose to just stretch it out or run, whatever it is, whatever works for you too. But before we get into more details, I think this is a beautiful way to end it, as we invite you to stay curious and do a body scan as often as you see fit. The alarms on the cell phones are actually savers, because it's a reminder. You don't have to be like, oh, I have 20 minutes until my next scan. No,
Yeah.
don't rest of your life. Just go with everything. And if you have any questions, follow Irene. And I'm gonna put her link and her website and everything. But honestly, her stories are just full of little beautiful nuggets that sometimes invite you to acknowledge a new perspective that you have not thought of. And I know I have found myself being like, oh wow, I had never really thought of it that way, or oh, I never really thought I could even do that. So I highly
Thank you.
recommend you.
Thank you. And also, I am so honored to be providing guided meditations to you and Clarity's upcoming retreats. I'm really excited for that.
I
Um, I think it's in a week's time, right? And I'm just so excited for you guys, and I know you will create such a beautiful experience. And yeah,
Yeah, countdown is real. It's happening in less than a week now. And yes, actually, yes, Irene is who is providing all the guiding meditations for the retreat. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I will discuss them more deeply after, because some of them are a surprise to our guests. And but after, we'll probably reconnect and explain exactly why, who we did, and why Clarita and I both were really aligned into bringing this beautiful soul with us from far, far, far away and a whole different time zone, to be part of something that is one of our biggest dreams coming true.
yeah, I'm so excited for it. And I love that it's right before Valentine's Day, because I feel like for each of us, the greatest lover is ourselves.
I know you've been teaching me that a lot, and yes, we are really bad at like the whole timing thing. There's a million things happening. One of them is Valentine's Day, and I was like, well, how beautiful that it landed there. Because yes, on, you can really love up on yourself. And the more that you love on yourself, the more that you know how to receive others' love. So it's a win-win, to say.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Beautiful.
well, I'll let you go. And thank you so much for joining me into this live and talking about everything, being, the mental stories, allowing, celebrating, everything.
Yes.
And I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed it too. Thanks for having me, and I will see you on Instagram.
Yes, you will see me. Bye.
Yes, bye.